All right, everybody. Tell me if you can hear the audio well and everything else. Hoping we're all right. And what I'll do is I will just start with some quick updates for what we've been working on and what's coming in the next few days, next week and so. Probably the most important thing we've been working on this past week has been the DIN output, and we just deployed the Matter contract publicly on Ethereum as ERC20. And last night was the first Matter mining that would be official. So if you already had an account, we did a few things. Everyone's Matter was removed because everything in beta was not real. And we knew that as soon as Matter was actually mined, that we would start over. And everyone who had actually generated Matter over this few months of working in the beta would be credited with lore, and so we still have to figure out how big that pool is and everything else. And I'm trying to get a couple of algorithms and formulas documented in a white paper. Then we'll release that. It'll either be today or early next week. And in the meantime, you'll actually be generating real Matter. So hopefully everyone gets in there and plays with that. The other thing we did is to help with the very beginning of everything. Everyone who had energy in the beta kept the energy they had, and if they had less than 1,000 energy, we boosted it to 1,000. So that's where we will all start off, and it'll at least allow us to keep generating content, since everyone in there has been pretty well vetted. So as new users come in, they will follow all of the normal rules, which is starting with zero Matter and 24 energy, and it'll generate as described. So that'll be really exciting. It'll be really fun. And on our next steps, and you guys can help us give us feedback on what should be put in place next. But I'm really wanting to move on to get lore on the actual deployed, lore contract deployed, and then lot contract deployed. But then basically to kickstart the how do I say this? Basically, the way to kickstart a layer creation process where the community can take part in helping us expand the number of communities that are in there. And for anyone who's new to the system, it's really interesting because it's a really good opportunity for community members to have a stake, to have ownership of the community, so that you are actually generating Matter, and you're incentivized to bring better content in and bring new users into your layer. So that'll be pretty soon. The lore won't be. I don't expect it'll take too long to create. The only difficulty with it will be modeling how it interacts with lot. We already have some really good ideas about it, but the implementation itself will be, we want to make sure we do it right. So that'll happen soon. Trying to think what else. We have the partnership that's kicked off, and we are planning integration and development with CreatorWorks to basically make the system work for the creators that we want to attract to bring earlier adoption. So that's all in the works. Trying to think what else we're looking at. We have a lot of we have a lot of things moving forward. We're going to have a release, and I'm not certain if it's this week, but a few good feature adds to Eternal Premium, and we're looking to even add a mobile app. That'll be pushed out a little bit, but at least we'll have some really interesting new features added, I believe, this week in Eternal. If you guys have any questions, ask me in a live stream, and we'll get those answered. And then there's also a post that I put into Den, or I replied to someone that if you see that post, I can answer questions there. I can also talk about, let's see here, there was put out today, Gaines Associates, and I will put this link in the live stream chat. Insights from Top Minds of Crypto, where we got an ad. I actually didn't get an answer back to the author quickly enough, but he was so kind as to include my answers after yesterday. So I just added that link. Okay, so let's see here. First question about the docu-series. Okay, so right now I think it's slated for June. I don't have a final date, but we're at least saying summer. June is summer, right? And it's still in production. Most of the material is filmed, but they're still cutting it up and forming, the story. So that's great, and we're pretty excited about it. The group is really good. The production quality is really good, and if you want to know more about that stuff, you can watch. There is, if you search on the Dragonchain YouTube channel, there is a cut from the 24-hour live stream where JD from Vision Tree was in, who's also launching Rainmaker, which will be really interesting because through their format, you can, by promoting the series and other shows on that platform, that you can get a piece of it. You can have there's level of ownership that is available. So that's going to be amazing. It's going to be really cool, and we're working with them on that system. So it'll be a really positive, productive thing there. The next thing, I don't know if it's a question, but yeah, the coronavirus stuff, that's crazy. I don't know. We had it hit here, so in Snohomish, I believe. So I don't know much about the effects yet, but it's always scary stuff. Let's see here. We have someone asking, is this project connected to Disney? So for that, I'm going to read precisely what we have said since the beginning, because we get so many people who complain that we shill Disney and stuff like that. So what's the history behind Dragonchain? And we've been very particular about always about being consistent in this answer, because it's very sensitive. So Dragonchain was originally developed at Disney at the Seattle office in 2014 as the Disney private blockchain platform. I was the lead on that project. We had a very small team, amazing people, and it grew and it grew, and we had a lot of interest. We had 2 courses in Disney's worldwide educational system that were at the time the top 2 attended courses. One was on blockchain, mostly focused on business and capabilities, and the other was on the architecture and how we were actually building what we were building, which was called at the time the Disney private blockchain platform. We built over 20 use cases in different to different levels. Some of them were just concept, some of them we got through design, some of them we built, and we documented that publicly via the W3C blockchain community group. And you can search for Disney or my name, Joe Rhodes, under W3C blockchain, and you can see those original messages where we contributed. Here are some of the use cases we are looking at, to keep it kind of broad, so that not every. We wanted to make it clear that it wasn't just for fintech. Fintech's obviously very important, but there are a lot of other uses. The platform. We went through a process, and Disney released the entire platform minus proprietary pieces under the Apache 2 license in October of 2016. I then left the company to create the commercial platform in 2017. So that is the background. We did get permission from Disney as part of that initial process, the original process of open sourcing, to create a nonprofit, which is the Dragonchain Foundation, which was created in January of 2017. Dragonchain Foundation was set up to maintain ownership and responsibility of the open source code, and to take part in education and outreach and developer outreach for the platform itself. I will also copy the use cases link and into the chat. Okay, so there you go. Let's see here. ETA for factor. Is there an ETA for factor? We have, so Factor backend has been there in some capacity for almost or past 2 years. It's been there, and the documentation and everything else. We've made a couple of refactors very recently. We're working on a partnership with an identity provider. I'm hoping to get more than one in there, and we're working on getting the consumer mobile app user interface in place. And we have we built a purposely utilitarian version of it that you can create an identity, you can create an arbitrary factor, and depending upon the provider, we had some not real, but Dragonchain provided identity factors in there, and the next step was to get a mock-up and to very much clean it up and make it more user-friendly and prettier, of course. And so they're in the process of doing that right now. After that, we have to review it to see if it's end-to-end, that there's functionality there to put it out. The idea is that we want to be able to have a person come in to self certify, to self validate that some simple factors like I own my email address or my phone number or my Twitter account, and potentially my console and then my Dragonchain account. Then we want to be able to allow you to go and get factors from a third party, from an independent, non-Dragonchain identity provider that will ideally take your passport, state ID, driver's license, and give you back a suite of factors that are signed by them and signed by Dragon Factor, but held by you in the app, and in the future, that you can also access from your desktop, laptop as well. But the last part would be actually using those factors, the ability to create a certificate, which in the very first rollout might be a little bit, how do I say, of a manual process, I guess, where we can, you can use them, but they aren't integrated fully yet. But once we have that foundation in place, we want then to integrate into either Eternal Premium, Den, or Console. Ideally all three, so that you can log in with that. And then we can start moving forward with proof of human. And if anyone's heard me talk about how we do that, it's extremely interesting, and that'll be kind of the deeper side of factors. So I'm hoping that we have something out in the next month on Dragon Factor, but could be sooner, could be a little later. And don't expect it to be everything all at once. This is we're building it out and trying to figure out what is most important to build first. So let's see here. ETA on Telegram chats moving to Den. Now that we have Matter in place, we could, and I'll listen to feedback from you guys. We could say let's wait for lore and wait for their community process, but these would be more of the B2B, the business layers that, and the idea for anybody that doesn't know would be the fellowship group that is a private group, and the creators group would move in. The Dragonchain discussion group would move in, and we would offer to the admins the community chats. That is the hodler group, the trader group. There's a community group, and all of the various language groups: the Japanese, the Italian, the no, I know we're going to forget some here. The Chinese, the German. So one way or another, that those admins would have ownership in the layers on Den, and they could keep running Telegram. That would be totally their choice. But our intent at Dragonchain is to move as much discussion off of Telegram as possible into Den. We will broadcast out from Den, like say the top, like say in the main Dragonchain discussion group, we would probably broadcast the top posts from the Dragonchain layer and maybe the Den layer into the Dragonchain discussion group, and we'll do the same to Twitter. But what we'll try to do is to get everyone into Den to ask questions and for the more full discussion, so they'll be better persisted, that we can prove, they're on blockchain, they're on, eat your own dog food, they're on Dragonchain, everything would be beautiful. And then we might, on the official channels anyway, we might, ideally we would turn off discussion, but we might not. We might do that over time. So hopefully that'll happen soon. I mean, I need to talk to the team because it'll be a little bit of a manual process, and we'll have to get in touch with all of the community Telegram chat admins, but that would be great. And if anybody has any thoughts on if there are any Facebook groups or any other groups on any other platforms out there that would want to layer that are Dragonchain related, we're open to that, and even potentially more general crypto groups. If we would definitely be open to that. Okay, so let's see here. That was a long answer. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Whether it will be possible to add time automatically in the console. It's possible. It hasn't been a high priority. We had people asking about that. I had just thought, well, you come back regularly and add it. At some point in time, that'll be some magic update when we have more time to do something. Maybe we make that happen. One of the difficulties with it, and the reason we just kind of punted it, was because if you have multiple nodes, which one do we add it to? If you're doing something else that we don't know about, especially when devotion for Dragon Scale and other upcoming things, that it would affect all of that. Because if you're automatically rolling your time into your node or nodes, that we wouldn't know when you wouldn't want to do that, and we wouldn't have any way inside of console to know what you're trying to do outside. So it just got complex and there were too many questions. So he said, let's just wait. So those are some things. People have ideas. We'll listen. Okay, next question from Ivan. I should have been saying everybody's names. Sorry about that. Do you really expect a bull run in 2020 as written on Gaines' article, even for Dragonchain? Let's see here. What did I say? Let's see. I said I'd love to see a bull market driven by real business and user adoption. That's what I'd love to see. Do I really think that? I don't know. I thought that last year. I'm always a little bit impatient. So I hear a lot of people saying it's in 2021. I could see end of 2020. The halving is coming. Bitcoin will start it. I tend to think that most of what we see in this long winter that we've seen is related to the regulatory uncertainties and some of the potentially nefarious behind the scenes interactions with between governments and inside of governments, where they have a lot of people. They always have a lot of people paying them a lot of money to affect policy and to even affect whether there is a policy. So, and I don't pretend to understand any of the machinations that go on there, but I will tell you, I know that a lot of what we see right now is because of that. And at some point, crypto itself, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of the industry will grow up, and it will know that it's more powerful than those machinations. So it will happen. I don't know when. The timing is the impossible part. So, but I guess the main point of that, though, that quote was that I hope that it's driven by actual adoption of real things instead of hype or instead of price. I mean, when people discuss Bitcoin, what do they discuss right now? Are they discussing the technical implementation? Are they talking about the scaling? Are they talking about the philosophy and why Bitcoin exists? Or are they talking about a dollar figure, right? Which is the most ridiculous thing in the world, that Bitcoin is here. It was supposed to be decentralized cash, but now it's really just gold, I guess. And some of that's a little disappointing to me, but at the same time, there is a purpose for store of value. There is a purpose for gold, and the diversity is beautiful. So as long as there is something that would be usable as a cash, that and the market decides how useful or important each of these utilities is. And even if the market is not perfect and not you don't have the liquidity and you don't have the flexibility of clear regulations and things like that, it's still, in time, it will work. And I just hope all of those projects survive. So anyway, the next, let's see here, from Shannon Finley: is Interchain possible with XRP? Any plans to do so? Absolutely. Interchain is possible with XRP. It's all software. Everything's possible. And we've actually talked about an Interchain with XRP. We haven't had an absolute reason to do so yet, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't be done. Probably the biggest thing that we've found with the Interchains, and the reason we don't have 100 like I want, is because right now we have to maintain both the level 5 node, which isn't a big deal, and the other node. In this case, it would be an XRP full node, and whatever that entails. Like say, every project is different. We had a Neo node running for quite a while, but we had too much trouble with the maintenance. It was way too expensive of our time to maintain, and what we would like is to partner with one of those projects and have them offer up, they could maintain the full node for their network, and we can interchain from our level 5, and everyone's happy. It would help them. It would help us. So that's the ideal. And if we do that, we can integrate, we can interchain with a lot more systems. So that's kind of the angle right now, and we've not been pushing heavy on it. But if anybody has any network in any project that would make sense, we are game to do that. We can actually interchain really fast if we're hitting a node that is connected to the other network and it's already in place. So take note of that. Let's see here. Italian group is here. Yes. They've been on Telegram for a long time. I don't know what the date was, but it was at least, I believe it was 17. So they've been around for a long time. So want to get them over onto Den. So reach out. We'll figure out who should be the owner. Again, we don't have lot contract in place yet. So right now what we have are single owners, and we just document who will own it. So if you have a primary owner of the Italian channel, let us know, and we could get that set up real fast. And then we will also split it up. I guess an interesting point to note in Den is that in order to appoint a moderator or another admin of your layer, they have to have lot. Now there might be a way to do some proxy or something later, but the intent is if you want someone to actually help you maintain it, they actually own a piece of it. And most people in these layers will have at least some number of lot that they can transfer, because lot will be a non-fungible Ethereum-based token. So let's see here. Hey, Alabama. Milo 158 waiting for the fellowship invite. Apologies for that. We will get that to you soon. Let's aim for next week at least, and maybe before. All right. Let's see here on NASDAQ. I don't know. I've been watching anything in the traditional markets at all, other than Tesla maybe. But let's see here. If I had to pick, this is from Mike Iannuzzi. If I had to pick one aspect of Dragonchain that will be the reason the token price rises, what would it be? It should be for the capabilities. If you look at, and I know 2017 or early 2018, there was a huge bull run, December, January, right? And that was the entire market. So that was not just us. And a lot of that was craziness. It surprised us. It surprised, I think, every other project what was going on. And that stuff happens. But you look now, and you look, although we came out of the gate with an amazing set of capabilities that had been built at Disney. We added to them, and we demonstrated really early with at the time DDS and what became DDSS and what became Time. That implementation, which was the first in the industry. We already had first in the industry Interchain interop, hybrid blockchain, where we are connected to Disney. And yet you look at it now, and what we demonstrated in that 24-hour live stream 2 weeks ago, which had us put 250 million transactions over the live operational production network, where community members were running the majority of the nodes. We're running some nodes, and a tremendous amount of transactions went through at the general rate. I think the 24-hour average was around 2750 a second, somewhere around there. But most of the time, at least when I was watching, it was over 3,000. And we did peak at 15,000 something transactions a second. And it really was to cut through all the noise just to get people to see, look, this is a real system, operational, it really works, it really scales. And if you delve into the architecture and how how the platform works, you'll get it that every node, business node, verification nodes, every node has its own chain. Every node is independent, which means they all scale independently. On the implementation side, it's even more important because every single node is running in every single, how do I say this? It's a Docker and Kubernetes based implementation. So the components on a node can scale independently as well. So we can apply more hardware and get more throughput, which the economy is beautifully modeled because we use time as scarcity, which means that you can run in cloud. So we have a lot of the community runs in cloud. A lot of the nodes are running in Amazon. I believe some of the nodes are running in Azure. I know we have run some nodes in Google's cloud. So it's a beautiful thing anyway. And so if you look at now, the market is not really reflecting the value in comparison to what it was then. And you do have oddities that are purely mechanical, where we trade only against Bitcoin or Ethereum. There might be something that's traded against. I can't remember. There are a couple of other trading pairs, but therefore we're affected by Bitcoin's price. There's not much that we can affect Bitcoin's price. So anyway, one way or another, that's obviously valuation. I guess the other side of it would be potentially if DIN adoption takes off, that could definitely have an effect. If we get all of our partnership together for scale, that could definitely help. If I had to say what would probably help the most, that might be the thing that helps the most. Just because I know the crypto world, right? But who knows? So we're working on a lot of things, and we've continued working for 2 years, and we haven't stopped. So that's what it's all about. Let's see here. Oh, great pronunciation. Thank you. No worries. Let's see here. Last question in the live chat. Can any node runner of a different blockchain network interchain with Dragonchain, or would it be a developer who understands both networks for troubleshooting problems? The way that Interchain works is actually really interesting. That because Dragonchain smart contracts run inside of a Docker container, you can put any executable code in that Docker container to run as a smart contract, which means, and we've demonstrated this, I've written a few myself that are bash shell based smart contracts, which is amazing because I don't have to worry about writing in a special language. I have full access of Linux. I can, in fact, install Linux command line utilities and use those in my smart contract. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. And because of that, you have to think, how do I write an interchain to blockchain project X? Well, you have to look up, okay, what is the API? What is the how do I access a node on that other project? And the difficulty usually is more DevOps related, that I have to get a node set up and running that I can touch from my smart contract. If you do that, then you just use their API and you talk to it. You either push something or you listen and pull something from the other project. And Dragonchain has a pattern of a watcher and a listener. A watcher and a publisher. and you can follow that. You can integrate them together if you wanted to have a single component. As an example, there was not a listener available in the existing Interchain API to do block level listener, where I don't care about a transaction. I don't care about a particular address on Ethereum or on Bitcoin, but I wanted to know what was the latest block, and in particular, what is the latest block hash from that network. So I had to write one, and I just wrote it in a bash shell script with using curl. And that was the first pass. It's like, okay, I'm writing this in Python or Node or something, but I wanted to make sure that I could connect and make sure it worked first, and it works. So it's efficient enough for what we're using it for. Anyway, so extremely simple. It's just code. It's the code that you would use to connect a client to the other blockchain. So you would need some level of dev skill, but not too radically much. Let's see here. Dragonchain roadmap for 2020 and 2021. We don't have anything documented. We'll have, it's more likely we'll have announcements, because otherwise we get bogged down in trying to deliver stuff that doesn't make strategic sense. And the first year we did really well, but that was because there was a lot of foundational stuff there. Most of 20 and 21 will be products related, a few core features that I have in mind, but most of the core is there. I have some little things I want on wish list, but most of the focus is going to be on Den, which is being spun out, on Factor, which might or might not be spun out, but it'll at least stay in-house for a while, and then on Eternal and Eternal Premium. And basically a lot of that is for adoption, getting the word out, and some of it, of course, will be affected by the docu-series, and who knows what will come out of that. One more question from Andy J. Will there be benefits for the token purchase, the token sale holders, ICO holders, with Golden Jojo? I don't know. We've had some suggestions. There are some suggestions that would be related to the limits on withdrawals. We still have legal things that we have to do there, and then there would also be let's see here. I have one in mind that I don't know how soon it would happen, but if we federate Dragonnet, which we want to do, but it's not top priority right now. If we federate Dragonnet, it would mean that Dragonchain is running the main Dragonnet by default here and there, and yet some people with Golden Jojos can get together and create their own Dragonnet that, for purposes of diversity, making sure that it's not that there's that we're not in the way if something goes wrong, particularly political, that you can have regional Dragonets. You can say, oh, this one's Asia only, this one's China only, this one is EU only, so on. And or you could have limited networks where I'm going to just get a whole bunch of partners to do level 4 notary verifications, and your entire network would be set there, and you would get a cut, and it would be interesting, and it would help. And so the thought was that you would have to have a Golden Jojo to do that. So there you go. Let's see here. Bama Bear, do you see Dragonchain being a tool that a lot of large and small businesses could use to help productivity? Yes, even from the original, probably the least sexy, but most interesting, in my opinion, use case at Disney was around efficiencies and modeling internal incentive systems for enterprise teams. Really amazing stuff that can be done there. And that's why a lot of the bullets, if you look at the architecture document and you see our goals, a lot of those were for that purpose. That is that you don't have to have a currency if you don't want, especially to start. That the model was you start without a currency, you get data on, you look at how people are doing the business, then you figure out this is a good actor, that's a bad actor, and mostly that this is the most efficient process, this is the least, and you want to incentivize the people to move towards the more efficient process. And that means you might have 0 currencies to start, but you might add 1 and then 2 and then 3 currencies on the same chain if you want. That was a big part of it, and that's all an efficiency thing. Let's see here in productivity. Is it something that people in small business could wrap their heads around? I think so, in particular, especially when you first get in the door, that if you understand the value of blockchain, let's say you have some system that might be potentially some liabilities around it, and yet you're doing your duty, you're doing what you should be doing, as most people do. That if and this is again part of the reason for our scaling and the way we've modeled everything, is that ideally you should put everything on chain. As efficiently as possible, but you should put everything on chain. Why? At least every user interaction, every real user interaction, not every log, not every time the system does something, but whenever a user does something. Because if they come in or some authority comes in and says, I want to know, what happened, you can just give it to them with proof. There's no reason to even, do any background check on what you're saying or anything else. They can see that this event really happened at this time. It's on, it's provable all the way to Bitcoin, Ethereum Classic, and Binance right now, as well as whichever level 4s it hit and all of the other verification nodes that it hit. So it would be extremely useful in court, or just in explaining what happened to someone. And the other reason, by the way, that's something that's a little bit of a tangent here, but I do believe that there's probably a pretty big use case even for DevOps, where when you have an issue that is sometimes very hard in a production system to figure out what was the state that led to this issue, that you have everything, that you can actually put your entire state back together and follow it through and figure out where something happened in ways that you couldn't. And there's, of course, security implications and everything else. So pretty nice stuff. Let's see here. And the simplest part of it, just ledgering, is extremely simple, extremely scalable, extremely cheap. So and extremely valuable. Okay, let's see here Damien Capitan, and then after this I'll check the other side, and then we can wrap up. All right. Because of the experience you are having with companies with their interest in blockchain tech, when do you think adoption of blockchain by companies will start? A lot of that, I think the difficulty in adoption so far has been misinformation, in my opinion. Sometimes it's not intentionally misleading what's going on out there, but the problem is a lot of, if you went to a Fortune 500 company and you asked them, they would either be scared because of the culture, crypto Twitter and everything else, or they'd be scared or uninterested. But they also think, oh, it's slow, it's slow database, it's not scalable, and it's expensive, right? And so as soon as, and that was the whole point of building Dragonchain, even at Disney, is that we needed to attack those difficulties of adoption. So it has to scale. Probably the biggest and most important point is the ability to leverage the powerful networks and to allow Interchain and to secure your data with those, yet to protect the private data. So if you have healthcare data, you have regulated data, you have PII, customer data. You can't put that directly on Ethereum. So you're going to have to build a side system. You're going to have to, you could leverage Ethereum directly, but it's a lot more work, and it's a lot more to code around. And so what we wanted to do is to make it extremely easy for any coder of any language to build something and to do things that we wouldn't expect. So that's what will drive adoption. If they know that they can build what they can with Dragonchain, if you look at how the Academy works, that the team built that in 5 weeks, I think. Might have been 4.5, but less than 5 weeks. And it was before we even had some of the features fully built into core with, say, the indexing and things like that. So they had to code a lot of stuff internally themselves. There was no database, that is native blockchain. And when you use that and you see how smooth that works and how usable it is, it's amazing. And yeah, I don't have to have MetaMask installed on my browser. I don't have to, I don't care about the blockchain at the point. I'm using the system. And so, the people we're talking to, I talked to somebody yesterday about gaming in particular, that the problem with blockchain games is that they're blockchain games, and they need to be fun games that leverage blockchain in some useful way, either for value or, more importantly, scarcity or something like that. Really, really interesting stuff. So, all right, so that's that. Now I'm going to pull over, see if any questions popped into Den, and I will then close out. Okay, no questions. All right, excellent. So I'm going to sign off now. We're gonna do this weekly. If you guys have any other ideas, I might be in a different room every week, and we're going to keep this going. Bring in guests when we can. If anybody has any ideas, do let us know, and we'll just keep this up so that we can keep constant information going. Thank you very much. Bye.